Nerdy Matt.
Oh yeah,
Hi, Nerdy Matt.
yeah.
You actually know who
Oh,
Nerdy Matt is?
I know a lot of nerdy mats.
Oh,
So
okay.
good.
What are the origins of the H2SH title, and how did that
So
come to be the name of the
controversial.
story?
So controversial. So I was the first. I was with you all. I said, Jeff, why are you putting the two instead of the U? Like, shouldn't the two be an S? Because like E is a three and S is a two and all these things. And I can't remember what you said,
Not,
but you were very focused on
oh,
that
I was
H2.
adamant
Yeah,
about it because I believe that when you're building a brand, it's just what it looks like. Well, Kleenex isn't a word, but now we know what Kleenex means. I said, if it looks like H2SH, and guys, I'm the guy that came up with Team Wolf, blame me. And so I was adamant about this, and everyone fought me. Everyone was like, it looks like a tissue. And I was
yes.
like, no, it doesn't. It looks like hush tissue. And so I think it does.
The resistance continues. Just FYI.
And
No.
but you know that Richard Starkings sort of placated me, which is what he does and he's brilliant at, by keeping the U and then making the two in the actual logo.
Right. And that's when I started coming around. It's like through the brilliance of what Richard Starkings brought to it. He basically put the two there and it looks like a mirror image of the S. It's like, oh, now I see it. But also, it's a really, it's been a great shorthand for us to talk about Hush 3, H3SH, and our previous run, H1SH. So when we're communicating back and forth, we can just go H1SH. I don't have to say, in the original Hush, remember, like, so it actually is a useful shorthand. And if you do it that way, it actually looks better because you're not substituting the two for the S. You're just putting the number in for that first
And
vowel.
that's all we're going to talk about the title
I could talk for hours about this. It's fascinating. Anyway, all right. So from username agents of no agent of sword or agent
Agent of
of
Swords.
no, it could be agent of's word.
No,
No.
you're an agent of Sword.
Okay, agent of sword.
Joss
Okay.
Whedon, John Cassaday.
Yes.
Got it.
What is the overarching theme for Hush 2 and how did it evolve?
Uh, it evolved out of us talking together about what we wanted to do. And I mean, the best way to describe it is it's Hush's revenge, uh, and and will sort of set the stage for how Batman is going to deal not just with Hush but with the entire Bat family. That was really the thing that makes it different from the last time. The last time I think we dealt a lot with how Batman deals with each individual criminal. And this is how is Batman going to deal with each individual member of his family? Just pick up the word.
So is Hush 2 like Empire Strikes Back? Is that what you're saying?
Uh, sure. I hope it could be that good.
Okay.
And
It's got
here's the thing I do know is that Batman is the father to a lot of Robins.
that's right. I am
And,
your father.
and we
No,
have
duh.
to,
Line. Wait,
we're gonna have to fix
should be
that.
the other way. Anyway, all right,
All right, so now my turn.
go for it.
Uh, and let's do this from an artistic point of view.
Sure.
What's it like to return? I'm sorry, this is from Venom 073.
Okay.
Uh, it's interesting. A lot of Marvel guys' names for a DC question. Uh,
Bane's Venom. That's how I choose to look at it.
oh, look at you.
I look,
That's why you're a
Mr.
producer.
DC, right here.
Uh, my question is, what's it like to return to these characters after all these years? How do you think Batman has changed? I'm going to say his look from back then and now. How do you think Hush has changed artistically?
So we've had a lot of conversations around this, and Jeff's always no. The suit he had in the original Hush. I said, Jeff, I just want to tweak it a little bit. So, in like my mind, through a lot of this is you want to revisit the past, but you also don't want to repeat it, I think, right? Like this is 20 some odd years later, almost 30, I think, right? And so the goal is how do we contemporize what we did decades ago, still make it feel familiar, but update it a bit. And obviously the costumes were a big part of that conversation. Um, I know for Hush running around, he's got Jason Todd, also, like, no spoilers for the next issue, but they're running around and they have a very similar look based on the very first series. So I wanted to figure out how to distinguish those two from each other. And then as far as Batman, back in the day, we were talking about a follow up to the original Hush, Hush 1. And there was a published piece where I drew Batman and Robin. It was always going to be Batman and Robin sort of teamed up. And it had the yellow symbol and bits of armor gauntlets and I think some knee sort of shin guards and stuff like that. So it is in line with what we originally had planned. And it also lined up with other changes that were happening in the Bat family. One of the things we wanted to do is do this in continuity. So we had to pull up a lot of reference, make sure a lot of characters look different today, but we wanted to have it feel familiar to the people that were reading Batman now.
I think one of the things that are amazing, and you're going to see very shortly, spoiler alert coming ahead, is uh, Batgirl plays a huge role, Barbara Gordon, and because of what Tom Taylor and Bruno were doing on Nightwing, great book. Uh, there was an opportunity for us to use that Batgirl costume and update a little bit, so she's going to have some cool stuff.
Get closer to the mic for me. Pull it closer.
Me or you? Okay. How's that? Is that better?
You sound the same to me, but
Okay.
you're looking at me like
I'm looking at you. Like, who knows?
you're coming from loud and clear.
I will
Okay,
tell one
we're good.
quick story, which is Jim drew the first issue of Hush, the very first issue. And Batman is coming up from the bowels of a ship. And when we got to about issue 7, maybe even later, it was around 8, he had sort of found his place of how he wanted Batman to look, and he was much slimmer and much more muscular. He looks fairly bulky in the first issue. And Jim actually said to me at this point, I want to go back and redraw the first issue. And I completely panicked because I didn't think we were ever going to make that happen. He goes, no, I have to. It looks completely different.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, he's just worn down over the course. And so that's why he looks so lean. And he still was adamant about redrawing the first issue. And so I pulled out my secret weapon, and that was Scott Williams, who said, if I have to do that issue, I'll quit. And that was the end of the conversation. So
Yes.
thank you, Scott. I will always be grateful. My turn? No, I just asked you one.
Sure. Okay. Let's see. Okay, is kind of a follow up to the previous question from Ma 7437.
Hi, Ma.
MAAA, so 3 A's, is is Hush 2 in canon with current continuity? I noticed that some of the characters are wearing different costumes.
Well, for first answer, yes, it's in current continuity. You can see that from the fact that it refers to things that are happening currently. But secondly, we did that on purpose. We wanted to have an opportunity for Jim to redesign a few things, and also, maybe nod, wink, wink. It may be a little something that our friend Matt Fraction and Jorge Jimenez might be doing when they come on the book. So it's always additive at DC. You want to make sure that people are looking at new things, and if you're seeing differences, it's on purpose.
I think again, we wanted to thread the needle of something where anyone could pick it up and understand what was happening, but at the same time, if you've been following continuity, it aligned more or less with what was going on. And it's tricky because we were using certain characters in Hush 1 that aren't even available in Hush 2, might be passed away. And then even the Batcave. Like we spent a lot of time talking about the Batcave and how Vandal Savage has taken over the Bat Mansion, so they don't
I don't know. What
they don't have access to the main Batcave in current continuity. And we're like, what are we gonna do? Like, and but we know that Batman has other safe houses throughout Gotham City. So in my mind, you can interpret it any way. It could be the normal Batcave underneath Wayne Mansion if you choose not, if you don't follow continuity. There's nothing in there that would suggest it isn't. But at the same time, in my mind, I'm thinking this is actually a backup cave he has underneath Gotham City. And so when he comes out on that motorcycle, he's already downtown as opposed to kind of coming in
And it's the same
from
thing.
the suburbs. So
We
this is me overthinking it.
no.
None
and
of
these
you
are
guys would know
conversations
this.
that we
I
have.
know it.
And in my script, I wrote last time you built the Ferris wheel for all the different Batmobiles, and in current continuity, he has one Batmobile. And so we went, well, that's the end of the Ferris wheel. So the idea was to create a cave that would be sort of, and that's why it says in the script, the cave. It
Right.
doesn't say it's the only cave, and
Right.
it doesn't say it's the back cave that you know from being underneath Wayne Manor, but that doesn't mean it might not be.
Exactly.
Uh, okay. Uh, here's one from, it should say Tatooine, but it's spelled with a naughty word. 16. Uh, hello, Mr. Lee and Mr. Loeb. As a big Talia and Damien fan, I have to ask, what can fans expect from these stories? Will it have a big impact on their individual stories, such as Batman and Robin by EKJ? Uh, well, I think you've seen just from the first issue uh, that Talia is going to play a big role. We're not just doing cameos here, guys. When someone shows up, you know it's going to mean something, and I don't think it's out yet.
The third issue?
No, it's not. It's not
Yeah,
out
yeah,
yet.
yeah.
So can't spoil it, but Big Damien.
Damien's in it.
It's, all we can tell you is whether he gets out of it is something else. We are
Yeah.
going to do something about this Robin problem.
Yes.
Okay, so your turn.
Okay. Oh, this question is asked to me, so that's weird.
Okay.
Okay, from Cybernex 007. Seems two different worlds. Jim and Jeff. On social media, you mentioned drawing pages for Hush 2 out of order. Does that approach ever lead to unexpected changes or new ideas in the story? Do you and Jeff share ideas with each other during the process, and how does the back and forth influence how things unfold? So, the back and forth is a lot more this time around,
Yes.
and it solved a lot of things. Like, and it's great. Like sometimes Jeff is traveling, so and
Me? Travel?
I'm
Travel
working
Jeff?
late. Like so, at 3 in the morning, I send out an exploratory text, and lo and behold, Jeff responds from somewhere in the world, and so it's nice having a creative partner that is awake when you are, and it's crazy hours. In terms of drawing the pages out of order, I do that partly as a way to sort of motivate me. All right, I'm going to draw every day. I'm going to draw pages I want to, like kind of look through the book and go, that scene. I'm going to do this scene today. I feel like I can pull that scene off. It's a little tricky in terms of keeping the visual continuity. Like if someone has a drink in their left hand and then you draw it, move it to the right hand, and back and forth, it can be a little confusing to the reader. So,
No
and
drinks.
and there are mistakes throughout and things I've had to correct, and then usually we do an quote unquote post. I mean, I ask Scott Williams to change it or Alex Sinclair in coloring. But that's why I do it. Also, like the goal is not to start off strong every issue and then run out of time and the deadlines impinge upon your ability to, you know, do like great pages at the end of the story. So you don't want that on display. So I jump around, do the pivotal, most important moments, and then I kind of do the in betweens after that, and that allows me to kind of maintain sort of the overall quality of the book. At least that's so. Those are the two
That's the
reasons.
idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the part that's the most fun is that, and you'd only know this if you read one of my scripts. Um, I write a full script. I write very detailed. This is what this is happening. All the dialogue, so Jim knows. Okay, this is going to have a lot of dialogue. I need to hide this stuff here. Although he'll still draw an entire background, knowing that I'm covering it up with a balloon. I never understand that. But the the real fun is every script that I've ever written says this is a blueprint. This is for me to be able to say to you, this is how I see it. But that's my background as a screenwriter. So, in the same kind of way that a director will look at a scene and go, yeah, I understand you want an extreme close up here. I think it works better if I pull the camera back. I not only allow, I encourage my artist, who is my partner, to take a look at something and go, well, what if we did this? And we just did this on an issue that we're working on recently, where I knew that this piece of action wasn't quite right. And I had worked on it and worked on it. And so finally, I just sort of gave Jim the best version of what I wanted. And oddly enough, there was something about it because you can tell when something sticks out, it sticks out. And Jim called me and he said, "Hey, I have an idea as to how to maybe do these 3 pages in a different way, and I want to know if that's cool." And he then had actually gone far enough to do like really quick layouts, like little doodly kinds of things, which to any of you would look like a masterpiece. And to me, I'm like, and he's like going, "Oh, I just did that with my left hand and while I was asleep." Anyway, and it was so much better than what I had in mind. And that's really the joy of being a writer working in comics, is when your partner elevates the written word. And that's what he does. We're gonna deal with this, but I'm just gonna throw it to you because it was your idea. This is from Cybernext 007. Very
Okay.
cool.
All right.
After reading Batman 159, we all have to know, very interesting, what is Riddler's workout routine? Edward is jacked from his appearance in 157. 157 started before us.
Right.
He's always looked differently.
Yeah.
And we're going to explain this. So,
Yeah, it's not like he's like 15 feet across. He's wearing like a heavy padded jacket and pants, like
right.
fatigue. So he
And he may have something on underneath that.
that's
We don't
right,
know
which
yet.
is to come, right? So I think there's a reason for it. And I just didn't pull like that costume out of thin air. I did go back and look at continuity, what he's been wearing in the past. Obviously, had the classic Riddler or one of the classic Riddler suits in Hush One with the bowler cap, and I want to do something a little different this time around, um, keeping with the sort of the visual update across the line of all the characters. Time has passed, and so there's elements in there that I like from the Matt Reeves Batman movie, right? The sort of olive green sort of fatigues. Then there was stuff with like him wearing
Yeah, can I ask, why is it that no one had a conniption fit that the Riddler didn't look like the Riddler in the movie,
Right.
but Jim drew one thing and they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is a completely different Riddler."
But the staff is from continuity.
Yes.
The staff slash I don't know if it was a gun per se, but we're
No, it was always a
okay.
gun.
Okay, all right. So tweak that or have that, and then uh, the bowler cap. There was one version where he had sort of a necktie, and so incorporated that into it. There's a reason for it, and hopefully it'll make sense coming forward. But I think it's our attempt at fashioning him from more just an agent provocateur guy sitting in the corner asking questions to someone that's actually in the middle of the action itself. So
And a little tip of the hat, so to speak, to Mark Chiarello, because on the cover of Last Halloween, which if you're not reading, you should be reading, number 3, he was the one who put the question mark over the eye, and I said to Jim, maybe we could make that a tattoo, because it was just a design element on the cover, but I think it looks cool as hell. See what else we got here.
I think that's for hush questions. We can move on to the miscellaneous.
Yeah, sure. We've done a lot of those. Let's go miscellaneous.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, William 6154. What are some of the best new DC heroes from the last decade that you both like? From the last decade, what year are we in now? 2025, 2015? I gotta do math.
I can't. Can we just do whenever?
Yeah.
Okay, let's
I
do
think-
favorite characters from the DC universe.
Right. I think I mentioned this before. I'm a big Legion of Superheroes fan. To me, it was that triumvirate or that trio, the triad, whatever, Teen Titans, Justice League, and Legion of Superheroes.
True story. When we finished Hush One, Jim said, "What do you want to do next?" And I said, "Well, what are your favorite characters?" Because to me, it's always about what makes my partner excited to draw. Because let's face it, guys, it's just you and the computer, and it's you and the board. So at least make it fun and something you want to do. And so when he said Legion, I actually had a whole pitch ready to go, and the then people, we can blame them because they're not there anymore, said, "No one's buying Legion. You're not going to do that." And that was the end of the Legion pitch, but it still exists. And just my own personal favorite, someday, if I find the right artist, I'm a huge Dead Man fan. Love Dead Man.
I was just talking about Dead Man the other day. Yeah.
Well, there
Yeah.
you go.
Boston
Uh,
brand.
Boston
Yes,
brand.
yeah.
Uh,
Baked beans. Boston.
okay, here's one. This is from Burger. That's like burger with a TW in front of it. Hello, Mr. Lee and Mr. Loeb. I like the fact the ones that say hello. That's nice
Yeah.
of you. Which of the more unknown, underrated projects you've worked on has been your favorite and why?
Gosh. Underrated projects. I enjoyed them all. Like, I mean, I chose each project depending on, the character, the storyline, but most prominently like the creator. Like,
Right,
who do I
sure.
get to collaborate with?
But is there something
Yeah.
from your earliest days?
No, I look at there was I actually did a short Legion story that didn't get too much distribution. It was with Paul Levitt, so that was great working with him. I
That's
grew up
awesome.
reading his work on Legion with Keith Giffen, and um, so getting to draw sort of that classic '80s version of the characters was a lot of fun. I don't know if a lot of people saw that. There was a Death Blow story that I did, again, a very short story that was part of the Wildstorm Compendium Anniversary Edition book that I got to work with, reunite with Brandon Choi, co-creator of Death Blow. So it's mostly like smaller stories, short stories
Sure.
that aren't going to necessarily be on the checklist. Books like Hush and these other runs I've had on Superman, I think most fans and readers like pick up, but it's the short stories that sometimes kind of slip through. What about yourself, Jeff?
Uh, I don't know that they're known or underrated. They were at the beginning, and that is, for me, it was my first book, which was Challengers of the Unknown, or as we like to pronounce it, Challengers of the Unknown. Uh, Mostly because I had no idea who any of those characters were. Once again, proving me and continuity are never going to be friends. And the best thing of all, which is I'm a first time, and that's where it all started. So where did we put in I said one down?
I got a question from Mr. Range 49 underscore 49099.
Don't leave out the underscore.
Yeah. What's about Batman, Jeff, that makes you keep coming back to him? And what are some of the smaller characters the both of us would like to work with? I assume from the Batman family.
Uh, I think the Batman answer is the one that everyone gives, which is he's the one that's closest to you could actually be that person. I mean, if you did that study and you did through that, I also I like the fact that a character that is like he's motivated by tragedy. It's so easy to understand that as a 10-year-old boy he watched his parents murdered, and so he has set his life to rid the city of the evil that took their lives. It's just a very straight through line. And I was talking to Frank Miller about this. Yes, I get the name drop.
Not
And
the Frank Miller, some other guy.
it's a guy
Frank
Frank Miller.
Mueller, Mueller,
Underscore.
a fantastic mechanic.
And we both agreed there's a kind of psychosis about it, which is that he goes out every night and he may win the battle, but he's never going to win the war. And that is the very definition of insanity, and that fascinates me. But in terms of characters that are less played, it really was just a twist in the story in Hush One that that Jason Todd appeared in the story. So many people were saying it's Jason Todd, it's Jason Todd, it's Jason Todd, that we were like, it's Jason Todd, if that's what you want to believe. I mean, we've left breadcrumbs for you to think that, but Jason was dead. That was he was gone. And then, thanks to Judd Winnick, he now has returned and is a character. So this is the first time either one of us has actually drawn and written Jason Todd. So that's new and fun. So any new characters from
No,
that?
no,
Any
I think that was one of the
universe?
first conversations we had. Like we got together for breakfast or lunch a couple times and just talked about what this could be. And I think it was like one late night panic call where I said, Jeff, we got to make it in current day. It can't just pick up where we left 20 years ago. I can't it was a panic call. But I think part of like what characters didn't we get to use the first time around? And then we were also united on this idea of introducing some new villains that were sort of beefing up the Hush family of teammates or hench people, whatever you want to call
So
them.
Silence you have met.
Yes.
But in the next issue,
That's right.
you're actually going to get to meet Armory. That's all we're going to tell you.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, Jim.
Yes.
Uh, this is sort of it's not about writing, even though it's about writing, but
Sure.
it's much more about, I think, what makes you go. This is from Alan Michael. Very
Okay.
nice, just straightforward name.
All right.
How do you know when it's the right time to do a sequel, or to do an event comic, or to do a graphic novel? When you get an idea, what makes you go, yeah, now's the time? And this is actually, I mean, 23 years later, I'm sitting in an airport in Pisa, Italy,
Yeah.
and you called and said, we're going. And I
Right.
went, we're going where? And you said, no, we're going. We're
Yeah.
going to start this.
Look, I think there's some personal creative reasons which we've touched upon. I hadn't drawn any, pages,
Interior.
interior pages, continuity, panel to panel type storytelling in almost 9 years. So I kind of had that itch to,
You can't.
so there was a lot of work getting back into sort of fighting or drawing speed or shape. But also there was, I think, a business reason in that we had a big year last year. We introduced the Absolute line as part of the All In initiative, but the All In initiative was really talking about excitement for the entire DC line, the core line, the stuff, the legacy line that goes all the way back to 1938, and then this new pocket dimension, pocket universe that Scott Snyder and Josh Williamson so deftly and creatively set up. And we wanted to have excitement in both. And so I felt from a sort of a publisher point of view, hey, this return to Hush, putting it in the core Batman line while we're also launching Absolute Batman, it's a great way of showing the fans that, hey, we're not abandoning this for that. We are celebrating all of DC, this all-in initiative. And so there was partly that reason behind it. And obviously we wanted to celebrate what Chip and Jorge had done on their Batman run, position this 6 issue in between this and the start of the new Batman with Matt Fraction, then follow up in next year with the sort of Hush 3, the end of the trilogy. So I think there was like it just nicely like fit into sort of a publishing strategy that we had around Batman and this all in initiative.
I just want to point out, we haven't actually decided it's going to be called Hush 3. It could be called Hush 2 Part 2.
Okay.
But we don't know. I
Right.
like sort of Hush 2 and then a
Sure.
little 2 in the corner, like squared. But you'll find out what happens next time.
Okay.
Your turn.
From Altamont 498, what advice would you give to people looking to get into writing and creating their own comics?
Just do it. Look, I'm a big believer in never give up on your dreams. Anyone who tells you that you can't do your dreams, you have to have a serious conversation with them, which is we can't have this conversation. I understand that when someone tells you that your dream is crazy, they think they're waking you up from a nightmare. They're not. They're actually trying to dissuade you from achieving your dream. The best part about right now is when I started out in this business, and certainly when Jim started out, you had to have pages and you had to find an editor and you had to try to get a job. And now you can go online, find an artist, ask whether or not you guys want to team up, do it, put up a few pages up online, and contact an editor and go, just go to this URL and tell me whether or not you think this is cool. And so the opportunities to be able to do it, it's just like filmmakers can now go out and shoot on weekends with an iPhone. You have an opportunity now to tell any story you want. Although I suggest that you don't use characters that are owned by another company. so that you can maybe take that story someplace else if that's what you want to do.
That pretty much sums it up. It really is just, I always tell artists, just draw. You don't need someone to tell you you can draw and tell stories because we've hired you. You can sit down, to Jeff's point, and just create. And through the act of creation, you will get experience. And through experience, you will see improvement in your craft. And you don't need someone to say, start. You don't need someone to say you're hired. You can do it now. The wages, the base pay will be zero, so it won't pay very well, but there's no one preventing you from doing the work that you want to do as a professional. And so why not get at it, get the experience, gain the knowledge, and at some point it will turn where people go see value in what you're creating and say, you know what, I'm willing to pay you for what you have put on this paper or what you can put on this paper. And that's the shift from sort of being an amateur or an aspiring artist to one that's actually paid and is professional.
And I strongly recommend that you remember one really important thing, which is talent is subjective. There are every single comic that you pick up, the artist has a different style from the one that you picked up next to it. So do not look at yourself and go, well, I don't draw as well as Jim Lee. No one's going to hire me. You have your own talent. Believe in your own talent. But what you can teach yourself, and this is the most important thing, is discipline. Get up, draw every day. Try to draw a page a day. If you can draw a page a day and you have talent, you will get work. This town needs this town. The publishing industry needs artists who can deliver on a deadline. And not many people realize how important that is. They want to spend 2 weeks drawing this beautiful panel of a boot. We know someone like that. And it doesn't make any difference to anybody. It's never going to get published. So just get it done. Now,
Okay.
this is from Alex Jaffe, not to be confused with the Mad Artist.
Right.
For those of you that know Mad Magazine, Al Jaffe.
It could be Al Jaffe.
It could be Al Jaffe, although I'm not sure Al Jaffe's still alive.
Yeah,
Is he?
I think he is.
Okay. Well, hi, Al Jaffe. I'm a
Yeah,
big
yeah.
fan. Do you think mainstream comics are more diverse now than when you started? Where do comics still need to improve?
Gosh, what a big loaded question. I think the answer is yes. It has definitely, it's grown. It's definitely more diverse than it used to be. I think there are more opportunities for people to get published than ever before. I think what a traditional best-selling comic, that definition is definitely, it used to be very limited, I think, to the main characters from the big two, Marvel and DC, right? And you're seeing a lot of breakout success from, third-party publishers like Image and Dark Horse. So,
Who?
yeah, those guys. And so, yeah, there's a lot of, and like I said, it's been democratized a bit in that anyone can get their content out there, whether it finds an audience or not. It's the tricky part of it all. But I think there are, it's a lot, the barrier of entry is a lot less today than it used to be. A lot more people are getting their big break, I think, than used to be. And that's talent from all around the world, which is exciting.
That's
right?
an exciting thing that was not there even 20 years ago. The idea of being able to go to conventions or just see things online where you suddenly go, wow, this person who lives in the middle of wherever, let's see whether or not we can get a phone number for them and see whether or not that person can actually deliver a story. It is exciting working with people from other countries. It isn't just a New York or LA based kind of continuity.
Yeah, and look, you have the rise of webtoons and vertical scrolling comics. You have, it doesn't have to be superheroes to be a big hit today. So I think it's all good for our industry. It's good for the creative community, and I just see that continuing to sort of flourish and grow as the business becomes more global and international. Jeph was saying. So,
And it's funny because when I first read this question, I missed the diverse part of the question. It just said, where do comics need to improve? I will always be a big proponent of what can we do about printing? What can we do about making the books look better? Because when I see it on a computer screen and then I see it printed, it's just a different look. I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm just saying it just looks different. And then I'll go to other countries. I'm going to just throw out a big hello to my friends at Panini. When I see the way that they do, whether it's the paper stock or the way that they've designed the book, I wish that there was a economical way for the big two to be able to publish books that have that kind of quality, even if it meant a higher price point. I can tell you that one of the things that was really the most exciting thing that came out of this was, and I had nothing to do with it. In fact, it was a complete surprise. Was this giant-sized version of the books that we're doing, was a total surprise. Like Jim called me one day and said, "There's going to be what they're calling. I think we're calling it the tabloid size, or they're calling it the giant size. I don't know.
Yeah,
what
it's a little
they're
bit
calling it."
bigger than Treasury size. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and you get the whole book, but it's the size of the page that Jim has drawn, and we're still working out a few kinks print wise. I think this next issue, 160, is hopefully nails it. But the excitement is these things are selling out. Like when we put them out, we were like, do you think anyone's going to buy a comic book that you can't? Like, there's no box for it, there's no bag for it. Like, you just have to. You're gonna just have to read it. I actually put them out on my coffee table now because now, and people go, "Is that a comic?" And so it's super cool.
This little thing.
Uh-oh.
Okay. One last question.
One last question.
Yeah.
I think I asked, so you get to ask me.
Well, this is a question to myself though. So
Okay, go ahead, answer yourself. I'll have an opinion.
All right. So cryptocurrency Scarface. Sorry, Scarf. Back. So there's no E. So anyway, this is a Hush question I just forgot before. How does Jim Lee approach illustrating the iconic moments in Hush 2? That's good. So Jeph, what do you?
Well, I think you start with the script.
Yeah, I do. Let me. Yeah, that's a good point because, and we do communicate like every now and then we'll go like, great job, and everyone will sort of cheer each other on, which is great. That's part of the collaborative working together process. But you know, the iconic moments just don't come out of nowhere. They start, like Jeph was saying, on the script, and I will regularly thank Jeph for giving me these images to sort of, you know, spread my wings and do something that strikes a chord with the audience. I think, you know, certainly for me growing up, all the comics I loved, I can pick out key moments, visual moments that the artist brought to life, and that all starts from the imagination of Jeph. I then take it and bring it to life so that you guys can see what he has in his head, and that's really it. You got to have something on the page written out that inspires that image, and you know, I think this is one of Jeff's secret superpowers is he's able to do that in a way that there's just very little friction, and like I get it immediately and go like, I see that. I would just add this, maybe this, and then boom, we're off to the races. And those are usually the pages I start with on an issue because they are so like exciting for me to draw, and I think it sets the tone for the issue. Like, all right, these are the high points, the big notes in the sort of music that we're creating together. What is the lull before that big moment that will accentuate that big moment? And so you start thinking about that. But it's nice to go in and say, all right, here's the big tempo moments. It's page 5, 16, 17, and 22. And those are going to be big moments that are set up. And then we'll have the moments in between. And it allows you to build it in a way that is different. But it all starts in the page. And that's why I think Jeph is a great writer, a great partner, is that he does things visually, even though I assume you can't draw. I don't know.
No,
So,
yeah.
Okay.
But you did hit on something, which is, I do think musically, which is that I'm writing a song, or I'm writing a symphony, which then Jim plays, and how Jim decides to interpret that along the way, as I do with any partner. I had a different story for Tim Sale that I would write for Ed McGuinness, that I would write for Jim. Like, I try to tailor the story to their strengths and to what they like to draw, and see where that's going to go. We're getting a word from our home base that we're out of time. So I get this part, which is, thanks for joining this DC Community.
Q&A.
Let me try this again. Thanks for joining this DC Community Q&A. For more live events, come this year. Why am I having trouble reading this thing?
Many more live events to come this year, Jeff. So just keep an eye out, guys, for more announcements. I
Keep
got
an eye
you.
out
I
for
got
more
you.
announcements.
I got you.
He does. I see. Somebody else wrote this, and then he finished it and made it work.
I can draw this right now. It's just